Welcome to Consider This with Big Joe Clark. Joe is a certified financial planner and adjunct assistant professor at Purdue University. Consider This is brought to you by the Financial Enhancement Group, LLC, where Joe serves as managing partner. The Financial Enhancement Group is an SEC-registered investment advisory firm based in Anderson, with offices in Anderson, Lafayette, Indianapolis, and Rensselaer, Indiana. This show is for educational purposes, and you're strongly encouraged to consult with your financial professionals for personalized guidance. Big Joe can be reached at 800-928-4001. You can find out more information about Joe and the Financial Enhancement Group at yourlifeafterwork.com. Enjoy the show, and remember to consider this.
Good morning and welcome to Consider This. I'm Joe Clark.
I'm Sherry Contos.
And we are very happy to have you along. Hope you're having an outstanding month of July. Hard to believe the world is going through here.
Almost over this month. And really what a month it's been. Rain, and more rain.
Well, it's been a summer of that.
Yes, that's true.
And driving around in central Indiana. I live in Anderson. We have a big office in Lafayette, Rensselaer, another one in Fisher, so I get to see a lot of the countryside.
Yeah.
And there is some corn out there that looks like it has had no issues at all, and there's some other corn out there that just pathetic is the only word that would really come to mind. Lakes
in the middle of fields.
Yeah, and it's made it challenging for a lot of different people. It's so hard to hear about places like California and Mead Lake and not having any water, and here we are with an abundance of it. So just crazy worlds. Hey, if you're out and about for the first time, just listening to the show, Consider This is about financial issues and worlds. You're not going to hear about a lot of headlines. I'm not going to talk a lot about Greece and the things of that nature that are going on. What I try to do is to give you things that if you're managing the money on your own, or if you're working with somebody where you're required to be the fiduciary. And remember, by law, my job, we don't sell things at the Financial Enhancement Group. My job is to treat you and your money as if it were mine and I were in your situation. So based on being a certified financial planner, a professor at Purdue for 7 years, and doing this for 27, 28 years, my job is to help you figure out what it is you need to be considering. We talk about the 5 critical elements. Mm-hmm. And so that's, it's all about your life after work. So we begin with retirement income, then the tax planning, that's not tax reporting, tax planning, the investment discipline, how do you deal with Greece and the crazy things that come in the world today. And then, of course, being able to deal with the normal events of life, the good, the bad, and the ugly, things that are going to go on in our lives. And then last but not least is the legacy plan. And what we want to do is bring things to your attention that we believe you need to consider. And we do that by your help. You guys send us questions and comments. You can email me at considerthis@yourlifeafterwork.com. But we use those questions to be able to know what it is that people need to learn about, what they want to learn about. And today we're going to have several different conversations. We're going to talk about moral hazard. Somebody pulled that out, and you may think, well, what does that matter? It's a moral hazard. So did that cause me to sin? And that's not. We're talking about economics now.
You got to define that.
So we'll get into that a little bit. And Sherry wants to talk about things that you need to consider before you start a business, which I think is an interesting thing since, I started the Financial Enhancement Group, almost 20 years ago.
And I started my own too.
You started your own company. So now are we reminiscing and going to try to go back to what should we have considered?
Exactly, right there.
Knowing what we know now.
If I had it to do again.
It's that great Andy Stanley question. Based on my past experience,
yes,
my current circumstance, my current issues and situation, and my future hopes and dreams, what would be wise for me to consider at this time? Yeah. That's what we're going to talk about. Hey, you are listening to Consider This. I'm Joe Clark along with Sherry Contos. If you do have a question or comment, shoot me an email. Consider this at yourlifeafterwork.com. We'll take a break and be right back.
Consider This with Big Joe Clark is brought to you by the Financial Enhancement Group, a Hoosier-based registered investment advisory with more than $150 million under management. The Financial Enhancement Group serves clients in 25 states and proudly takes care of people who don't want to worry about their own money. You can find out more about the Financial Enhancement Group at yourlifeafterwork.com or reach any one of our 4 Central Indiana offices at 1-800-928-4001. Your Life After Work. That's what it's all about.
Well, good morning and welcome back to Consider This. I'm Joe Clark, along with Emma Johnson, who I'll introduce here in a minute. You know, about once or twice a month, you hear me talk about the notion of gifting, of being able to take your resources and share them with other people. Sometimes that's for a not-for-profit organization, what we would call in the tax world a 501c3. That means the money that you contribute and donate is actually a tax-free gift, a tax-free transfer, if you will. The charity pays no taxes on the money that they receive because they're a 501c3. And if you're able to itemize on your tax return, you actually get a deduction as well. Now, gifting is a very interesting thing, and it comes from the heart, something that you have to feel led or compelled to be able to do. What I want to do from a financial side is teach you the best way to be able to make those gifts or those transfers. So one of the things that we talk about in the financial world is making sure that you have tax diversification from an investment perspective. In other words, you have, if you can, a Roth type of savings where the money goes in, you pay taxes on it, but it's going to be tax-free for the remainder of your life, and your beneficiaries actually receive it income tax-free and if there's money that's left over. You're probably going to have some money that is tax-deferred in an IRA or a 401k where that's your only mechanism of saving, perhaps. But the third thing that you want to be able to build is an actual retail brokerage account where you're able to buy stocks and let them appreciate. That becomes important now, not just for one, but for 2 reasons. The first reason is if I wanted to make a gift to a not-for-profit entity like Safe Families, for instance, of Madison County, which is why Emma's here this morning to talk with us. If I wanted to make a gift like that, it's best for me to gift appreciated stock. So let's say I bought a stock for $10. It's now worth $20. If I sold the stock and then gave Emma the money, I would have to pay a long-term capital gains on that growth. On the other hand, if I merely transferred the stock to Emma, to Safe Families for Madison County, they're able to sell the stock. I take care of all of that for free here at the Financial Enhancement Group, by the way, for charities. We sell the stock in the name of the charity. They pay no taxes. You've made a gift. You've paid no taxes because you didn't recognize any gain. You didn't make a sale. And from an itemized deduction standpoint, you still get the full value of the gift. So let's gift early, often, be generous, but let's always gift smart. Do not think the IRS is not involved in this world. So we're going to get into one of my favorite organizations because I was able to watch it kind of come to life in Madison County. Very, very odd. We went to church one Sunday, and Emma got up there and told her story about Safe Families and why it mattered to her. And I went home and got an email from one of my cousins that I rarely get an email from saying, hey, have you ever heard of Safe Families? So I thought God was talking. I did my best to listen, and so here we are. So Emma, tell us what Safe Families is first and foremost.
Okay. Safe Families, first and foremost, is a nonprofit organization. We allow parents who are in crisis to voluntarily choose to place their child in the home of a safe family. So choosing to place your child with a family sounds like something must be kind of going on in the background for a family to get to the point where they have to choose to do that. And these are parents who are struggling. There are many times single parents. They might be homeless. They might have lost their job. They might not have family they can depend on. And they reach out to us, and we help them kind of like an extended network of family. Very good. Now, this show actually goes out to multiple counties, not just Madison County. So Lafayette, Clinton County, which is Frankfort. Are there Safe Families that are organizations in those cities too? Probably not. Okay. No, I know there is in Indianapolis. Obviously. Northern Indiana, there is some. And then we have a startup in Bloomington area. So there are some other areas that are popping up, but we don't cover every county. By
So
any
if
means.
you're listening to this and you're interested in it, for goodness sakes, get a hold of Emma and Safe Families of Madison County, and there's also a big one in Indianapolis that my cousin's involved with.
Yeah.
And find out what's going on. America is unique in the way that orphanages work, and when we went on a missions trip to Nairobi a few years ago, and when we think orphan, it's a kid that has no home, no mommy, no daddy, no place to go. And what happens in a lot of the impoverished countries is exactly what you're really providing. The kids go to a place, the parents still have parental control and rights. They show up and visit, and do the best they can when they're not trying to figure out how to find enough food just to stay alive.
Right.
All right. So when somebody can show up and call them in the middle of the night, and they do, and what number, by the way, if somebody needed help, would you want them to use to be able to get a hold of you?
Well, we do have a crisis intake line for people who are in a moment of crisis, and they can call that.
Okay.
That number is 317-519-3839. For local Madison County needs, it usually gets shot back out to me right away after they call that number.
Okay, so they use the crisis number, and used to in the old days it had to be an 800 number because people wouldn't have had the money to pay for it anymore. That doesn't seem to be an issue.
Right.
So 317 what?
519-3839.
All right, so you got that number down. Now, you're here to talk about a fundraiser you're doing and a concert. I'm looking at a picture that the date is August 15th here in Anderson, Indiana, downtown at the Dickman Town Center. That's between the Y and
the Paramount.
The Y and the Paramount. It's at 12th and Meridian, 5 to 8 p.m. Again, August 15th. So it's coming up quickly. But I'm looking at a gentleman on the flyer with no arms.
Yeah.
And this is about music.
Right. This is pretty exciting for us. So we're bringing in a man by the name of George Dennehy. He has a pretty incredible story about how family literally saved his life. He was born in Romania without any arms and pretty much abandoned in an orphanage. And his adoptive parents sought him out and adopted him and brought him to the United States when he was just a baby, raised him there, and he ended up developing a musical talent as he grew up, and he plays guitar with his feet. So he really is a very inspiring person to come and talk about how family made all the difference for him. So he'll be sharing his music and his story with us on August 15th.
That is absolutely wonderful. So without giving any names or any of that stuff, obviously, are there a story or two that really touch your heart that you want to share about Safe Families and, just to give people an idea of how this all goes down?
Yeah. Well, I will share one story. Sometimes we just don't think of what our families and our friends do for us, and until you meet somebody that doesn't have that network around them. So we've really helped countless people who really are calling us because they don't have family to be able to call. So on one occasion, there was a mom who was having a surgery in the hospital and needed to be at least 7 days in the hospital. And part of our paperwork, there's a line that says, if something unforeseen were to happen to you when your child is in placement, where do we send your child? And she just looked at me blankly and said, I don't have anybody. I mean, I just can't imagine not having anybody to put on a line that says, if I die, this is where I want my child to go. And it was difficult. She had to make phone calls to people out of the state and in Canada to find out if I, don't come out of the surgery, will you help me with my daughter? And she just said, that's why I called you. I don't have that family. And it's heartbreaking. I mean, and that's not the first time I've heard that. So, anyway, that story ended up being a really good one. She was in the hospital for 7 days, and thank the Lord came out of her surgery fine. And, not only did we just send her daughter home when she came home from the hospital, but we actually had the host family coordinate meals for her for the next couple weeks, and they were bringing meals in 3 times a week and making sure that they were recovering well. And they also ended up, building a relationship with the host family, and now they, see each other maybe once a month and have dinner together. And so there's that network of support that wasn't there before and is now.
So there's a lot of people that are part of the Financial Enhancement Group family that have fostered children or done something like that. And this is kind of a short-term fostering to a degree.
It is.
But it's definitely with that relationship with the other parent, with the parent. Yeah. You're just trying to give a family a chance to be able to stay together. And
exactly.
I am all about that and support of that. So again, their concert, they're trying to raise $10,000 for Madison County. They got about a little over half of that raised. That covers all of the cost has been covered for the band and the concert. And Bleeding Keys, by the way, will be there as well to perform with George Dennehy. But it's August 15th, 2015. So there's different ways to give. If you want to gift with appreciated stock, if you want to call our office at 800-928-4001, I can help you coordinate that, understand how that works on your tax return, those kind of things. I'm happy to oblige in that area. It is a tax-free transfer for you as long as it's coming out of a retail brokerage account. You can't do this out of your IRA yet. The IRS hadn't ruled for this year on whether or not you're going to be able to do those kind of gifting strategies. But we can gift the money, gift the stock, sell the stock, and they get the cash. You get the deduction. You don't pay any taxes. They don't pay any taxes. I really like that deal. But if you'd like to make a cash gift, where's the best place to be able to do that, Emma?
Well, any cash gifts at this point would be a part of our sponsorships for the event. So somebody could email me directly if they would like to do that. They can also give online.
How do they email you? What's that address?
They can email me at ejohnson@safefamilies.net.
And if you didn't get that, if you're driving down the road, again, just go to our website at yourlifeafterwork.com and say, hey, what was Emma's email again? And we'll be happy to send it and share it. So ejohnson@safefamilies.net. Okay, and if they wanted to go online, how would they find out more about this?
Well, we do have a website, both for the concert and for Safe Families of Madison County. That website is www.sffcmadco.org. You can find out about the concert. There's a donate button. You can donate there. And if you'd like to give a special gift for the concert as a business owner, we'd like to make sure that we say a special thanks for that and add them to our banner and our website and all that. So emailing me would be ideal.
The best way to get that done. All right. Wonderful. So again, this segment is not just about Safe Families, though I thoroughly believe in grassroots efforts of communities taking care of communities. And I've been able to see this in action. Emma started off. She didn't tell you her story, but that's how this started. There was a family that was in need, and her husband took in a family. Her parents got involved and took in part of the kids, and they were able to keep a family together as long as they possibly could. I've watched it in Brownsburg with my cousins with multiple kids that have come in, sometimes for a few days, sometimes for a few weeks. But it's a grassroots effort to take care of families. I am all about that deal. I think it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. I'm also about making sure that when you make financial decisions, that you make them in the best and appropriate light for your overall financial regard. And many times we just give cash, or we write checks, or we invest in this, that, or the other thing without thinking about the continuity of how it all goes together. And continuity in the financial world is a critical thing. Just like continuity of safe families and community, in my mind, is an important mission. It's an important way to be able to keep that community kept together, the family together, and be able to do good things. So you've been listening to Consider This with Joe Clark. Our guest in today was Emma Johnson. Happy to have her. If you've got any questions, feel free to get a hold of her. You can also get more information about her if you email us at yourlifeafterwork.com. They can go to the website, send in any commentary you want. More than happy to help facilitate you guys meeting. And if you're interested in one of the places in northern Indiana about learning how to do this, it really is a grassroots effort. She essentially by accident found it, and here we go. Love how God works. Hey, I got to take a break. We'll be right back.
Are you overwhelmed with financial complexity? Are you confused about how your 401k and your IRAs work together? If so, you're not alone. At the Financial Enhancement Group, we work to make your financial life simple. On a single sheet of paper we call the Family Focus page, we help you lay out your long-term financial objective with the next 36-month key financial objectives. At the Financial Enhancement Group, we keep it simple. We keep you on track. We work together. 800-928-4001. We look forward to hearing from you.
Good morning and welcome back to Consider This. I'm Joe Clark.
And I am Sherry Contos.
It is a fun world. Hope you're having an outstanding day. Lots in the world, lots to talk about.
Yes.
And, you know, there are challenges that we all go through in running our businesses.
Yes.
Sherry was sharing with us the break a challenge that she's having getting her mail to where she would like to have it.
It's a long, sad story that I won't go into on air, but it's just unbelievable. The difficulty in just delivering mail into a box.
So let's talk about a different difficulty.
Okay, all right.
So when did you start your business, Sherry?
My current business, 5 years ago, 5.5, 6.
And what do you do?
Well, I'm a grant writer. I started out being a contractual grant writer for the city of Muncie. And now I am contractual executive director, actually, of the Arts and Culture Council of Muncie, and also write grants for nonprofits on the side.
Okay. So do you have any employees?
No.
Okay. And when you started your business,
yes,
because that's what this segment is really about.
Right.
Sherry said, what are the things that you should consider before you start a business?
Yes.
So what did you consider?
I considered my happiness, number one.
Okay.
I considered the fact
what
that
does that mean?
Well, it means that how I'm cut is that internally I don't do well unless I'm passionate about what I'm doing, or I do best when I'm passionate about what it is that I'm doing. And so I had the opportunity to do what it is that I'm passionate about, and thought I'll go for it. Now, we're going to get into this, I'm sure, but the financial side of it was secondary for me to my background and my passion and opportunity, those three things.
So passion and opportunity. Mm-hmm. Opportunity didn't have to do with money, though.
No. The opportunity, well, people wanted my services.
Okay.
Yeah.
So there had to be something that was there. So
yeah.
So what did you make a list? What'd you do?
I guess pros and cons. I did. The flexibility was huge to me. Flexibility of making my own hours, being where I want to be. So you
were in your 40s. Is that fair to say?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you'd already had an adult life.
Yes.
Okay. So when most people start a business,
mm-hmm.
Most people have done something else first.
Yes.
And then start a business.
Well,
right?
that's very true.
And so there are things that come along with life experiences and life expectancies, right?
Yeah.
And
True.
it's when you're younger, you don't necessarily think all of those things through. People come to me today based on my experience, and we've been very fortunate and successful in terms of running a business, and they'll say, what were you thinking about?
Right.
I have two reformed bankers that I've turned into financial planners, and
reformed bankers.
Dean Huddleston and Aaron Room. They're great guys.
Reformed bankers.
Well, they were bankers, and now they're
reformed.
They now do financial work for people.
Okay.
Well, no, that doesn't make bankers a bad person.
Okay.
I don't mean that. But
all right.
But I took them out of the banking world where they got rewarded for selling credit cards and opening accounts.
Now we're to it.
Now they're rewarded for helping people make the right financial decisions
for
them.
Right.
So that didn't make them bad people.
No.
All right. But they jokingly will point out to me, they'll say, "Now, what was your plan B?" And then they'll laugh. Because they know at 21 years old, when I started my business, there was no plan B.
Right,
It's most people who knew me would tell you that plan A wasn't that well thought out. And plan B had that wasn't even on the radar, right? I think when you go to start a business that, for most of them that are wildly successful,
mm-hmm.
There wasn't even a thought that it wouldn't work or
I agree.
that they weren't going to succeed. So
I agree.
The ideas of making a list of the pros and cons didn't really even come into play. Now, the one where we are very much on and very, very same, but for most businesses, the challenge is they've got to have that passion, that enthusiasm.
Exactly.
You talked about what drove you, right?
Yep.
And enthusiasm is Latin. It literally means God within.
Yeah.
And you do have to have that passion, that excitement. It's got to
Right.
be something that interests you.
It does for me. I mean, I find I've tried to do jobs that people, oh, you'll be great at this. Oh, and honestly, mildly successful. Yeah, I could be mildly successful at other things, but if I'm not passionate about it, end of the day, I'm not happy. So, yeah.
You can be successful at something without being happy.
Definitely.
And at the end of the day, happiness has to matter. I don't care what business
agree.
you're going into. There will be days where you do it because you love it, not because of the bills that it pays.
Right.
There will be days when you show up because the paychecks matter.
Yeah.
But in order to be able to do it and to get through the thick and the thin, because there will be good, bad, and ugly days,
You gotta.
you need to have, in my opinion, something that you can be very, very passionate about.
Now, I am really happy to hear you say that, because that's not what I thought you were going to say.
What do you think I was going to say?
I mean, I know you're passionate about your business, but being a financial planner, I was going to guess that you would think that people need to have this well thought out, long-term, and a plan B thing that makes sense financially, kind of to make money, kind of to all those things. I wouldn't have put passion at the top of your list. However, seeing how you run your business, it makes sense to me.
When somebody comes in and says, Joe, I'm thinking about starting a business, or I'm thinking about leaving this company and I'm going to another one,
Yeah.
there are questions that I ask, and obviously my job is to help them create the right legal entity, right, based on what it is they're trying to accomplish.
Right.
Help them understand the type of financing they need to have, whether it's a line of credit or an actual loan. Let them understand how much money that they have in accounts that they can dedicate toward this type of process or plan. But at the end of the day, the questions I really get to are, what makes you passionate? What you're going to bet the farm, literally.
Exactly. Yeah.
Why are we betting the farm on this? What is it that you're what is it that's crossing your mind that makes it matter? So
yeah, and don't you really? It rings hollow to me when someone says, "Oh, I think this will make me some money. I want to do this because this is how I'm going to, make money." That always rings hollow for me. If they don't have a passion for what it is.
Well, but that could be the fact that you're a singer and you got that artsy side.
Well,
so
yeah.
There are a lot of people who are listening to the show right now that go, Joe, if you think I'm passionate about showing up at Caterpillar today, if you think
Yeah,
I'm passionate
I
about
know.
they do it purely
that's
because
true.
of the paycheck, and that's why people discuss.
But they aren't starting a business.
That's why they discuss retirement.
True.
That's why that comes into play. I mean, the truth be told, people ask me when I'm going to retire, and it's like, why would I?
Right, exactly.
I mean, I love what I do.
Yep.
When it's time for somebody else's turn to run the company, then that's one thing. But the idea of me retiring based on an age, as long as I'm still I'm passionate about it, and still understand it and have my faculties, why would I stop?
And I guess the thing about having passionate, I suppose if you're really passionate about providing for your family and really passionate for, about, it has to do with money, but it's for a reason, then I could see starting a business for that reason. But I think it's great if you're passionate about the actual work that you're doing.
Well, I've got friends that are passionate about building companies and then selling them.
Yeah, I know. Well, but they're passionate about that.
That's the part of it. They're not necessarily passionate about making the cans or passionate about delivering the mail. They're passionate about different things within that, and that's God built us all differently.
True.
But what you do need to do, and I spent there's a 3-year program up in Chicago that I went to called Strategic Coach, and as Dan Sullivan, the founder, always said, we love people like Joe, slow committed learners with cash, because it's a 3-year program and I went for 13, But they taught me a lot of things that I am able to use to help other people think. And one of them that Dan came up with is a thing called a strategy circle. And so, what happens to most people in life, Sherry, is they come up with a goal. And you really don't want the goal. What you really want is the result, right? So I've watched, I'm a big guy. I want to cut 30 pounds. Right, I want to cut 20 pounds. And And really, who cares about cutting 20 or 30 pounds? What you really want was to either fit into those golf shorts, right, or be able to climb Kilimanjaro, which in my case was what I did, or be healthier to some degree, right? So you want the result, not the goal,
right?
And so when somebody comes in and says, "Hey, I want to start this business to do this," I try to help them figure out what that result is.
That they're looking for.
What are you trying to get?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Once we can articulate the result that we want, then we can go back and come up with a goal that will truly get us to that result. So maybe it's not losing 30 pounds. Maybe it's being able to go around Mounds Park in 25 minutes.
Right. Okay.
Maybe that needs to be the goal to get to us to the result that we want.
Right.
Right. Then we're going to carefully and conscientiously list out everything that is going to be a challenge from us getting from that goal to that result, right?
Okay.
So we're starting a business, right? So one obstacle for most people is, where does the money come from? Now, what do you need to be thinking about money-wise? You need to be thinking about your income, unless you're financially your spouse can keep you alive, or you have no bills somehow or another. I'm not sure how that would work.
Yeah.
But where's the income going to come from to take care of what you already have to be able to do? Secondly, how much capital do you have to invest? So money that's sitting inside of an IRA or 401k, there's tax penalties to get that money out. You can't borrow against it necessarily to be able to. You can never borrow against an IRA. 401k, depending on the employer, if you're still employed. But where do you come up with the capital, the startup money that you need to buy the things or the space, whatever it is that you need, right?
Yeah.
Secondly, then you've got to figure out the income that's going to come in to employ other people, right? So in your case, you have nobody that it's Sherry, herself, and her.
Me.
Yeah, me. Yeah. And there's 17 of us here.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And so the challenges that we've been through in the Financial Enhancement Group, being from Don Hodson and I starting it to our first people, now to having 17 of us that are running around, there are different challenges that are there. But where is that funding going to come from? Finance is one of those things that you do need to consider. Where you're going to live, right, is another one of those things you're going to consider. When I say live, I'm not talking about this street or that street. I'm talking about what state, what income area do you want to be in, right?
And you're thinking about that in terms for financial reasons?
Absolutely.
Taxes? I mean, that sort of thing.
If you live in Madison County, in the county,
right,
and let's say you need a trailer for something, you're not going to pay a lot of property tax on that. You live in the city and you have that trailer, you're going to pay a lot of property tax on that. Yeah, there's
Wow.
we pay taxes every year. On the stuff that we have, the recording studio that we have here at the Financial Enhancement Group, the equipment, the computers, and all of that. We get this cute little bill for each of the offices and each of the areas that are there. So you have to think about that, and you have to think about how you want your company owned, how that ownership is going to be. And always, like in all things, begin with the end in mind. It doesn't say Joseph A. Clark and Associates outside, right?
Right.
It says the Financial Enhancement Group.
Right.
I don't want the company to die with me. I didn't want the company to just be a one dog pony show, if you will, or whatever you want to call it. I wanted it to be able to be a bigger company. So I didn't build it with the mindset of, okay, here's how I exit the industry. I build it with how does my management team be able to take over ownership and running it. And that's how we build it and defined it. Most of my people who, like you, that are individuals that have individual companies, think about, okay, do I have anything left when I'm done doing it?
Right.
Or is this something I can sell? Do I just shut the desk and leave the office and turn the light off for the last time? But those are things that you really do need to think through.
Yep.
And have very, very important conversations. And never forget the idea of tax is in the middle of all of that, coming up with the best tax strategy that you can, and building your business accordingly. So there you go. Hey, you listen to Consider This. I'm Joe Clark along with Sherry Contos. If you got a question or comment, you can shoot us an email. Consider this at yourlifeafterwork.com. And don't forget, if there's more that you want to learn, my newspaper article as well as previous radio shows are on our website. Just go to yourlifeafterwork.com, our insights, and you can find all of that information and data there. If you have a question, we are here to help. We are about retirement made simple. And if you're looking for somebody to help, if you're ready to have a fiduciary in your life, somebody that will treat your money as if it were theirs, in the same situation that you're in, we are here to help. More than happy to have a conversation. I got to get a cup of coffee, and we'll take a break. Be right back.
Consider This with Big Joe Clark is brought to you by the Financial Enhancement Group, a Hoosier-based registered investment advisory with more than $150 million under management. The Financial Enhancement Group serves clients in 25 states and proudly takes care of people who don't want to worry about their own money. You can find out more about the Financial Enhancement Group at yourlifeafterwork.com or reach any one of our 4 Central Indiana offices at 1-800-928-4001. Your Life After Work. That's what it's all about.
Good morning and welcome back to Consider This. I'm Joe Clark.
I'm Sherry Contos.
With a chip on my shoulder, apparently.
I know.
Sometimes the breaks are more entertaining than the show.
Yeah,
right?
Too bad they can't listen in.
Well, they could. I could leave it as a live mic, and we could just
not do that.
Probably not a good plan. Hey, in 2008. A period of time which I don't like to talk about yet bring up a lot, kind of a strange comparison or strange thought. But I remember one of my clients asking me who stole the money. And I kind of looked at it, and the value, they'd gone down, 13 or 14%. 2008 was not a pretty time.
No.
But we were hearing these stories about market cap being gone. 1/3 of the market capitalization gone, and so the lady looked at me and she goes, "Joe, who stole the money?" I go, "What do you mean, who stole the money?" She goes, "Well, if 1/3 of the market cap is gone, who got it, right? Because you can't just have something disappear out of thin air. I mean, if you have a house, you have a house, right?
Yeah.
Who got the money, and where did it go?" And China has recently gone through this roller coaster ride, lost about 30% in 30 days. Now, keep in mind, it's still positive at the time of this taping, still positive year to date, but it did lose about 30% in 30 days. And, you've got a bunch of that market capitalization that's missing, and who stole the money. And so let's start with this way. Let's say the housing world got hit in 2008 also.
Yep.
So let's say my house was worth $100,000, and then the appraiser came and it was only worth $80,000.
Yeah.
Who got the $20,000?
No one.
Nobody. Just kind of
the value decreased.
The amount that people were willing to pay for the house went down.
Yep.
Right. Mm-hmm. So one of the things I used to do at Purdue every semester was take a company public, and
for real.
No, not for real.
Just on paper.
On the board, so that people could really understand
what happens.
What goes on, and so 100% is as much as you can have.
Yep.
Right. You got 100% of your company, and we decide that we're going to go public. Now, when a company goes public, my friends, there are really only 2 good reasons for that. There is a third. But there's really only 2 good reasons. Mm-hmm. Let's say that all of my net worth is in Facebook.
Okay.
Or is in the Financial Enhancement Group, right? And you go public to create diversification. So I'm able to get money for part of my interest in the company so that I can invest in other things, not because I think that the Facebook is going to go to zero if I'm Zuckerberg. It's not because I think Facebook's going to go to zero. I need some diversification in my life to be able to get a little bit of money in other places. Right. Just again, good diversification. And so, every now and then I'll hear somebody say, "Well, they evidently didn't think very much of their company because they sold shares." Well, that's not true. Many times, when you go public, you're doing it to create that diversification within your own net worth. Mm-hmm. Now, the second reason people go public is because they need cash.
Okay.
I either need money because I want to build more offices, or buy a different software company that's out there, but I need cash, right? And that is the second reason that is viable, to be able to go public. I'm going to give away part of what I have today in order that I can invest so that we'll both have more in the future.
So I have a question. Mm-hmm. So what does it mean when there is a very, very successful company, maybe family owned,
Okay.
Very successful, that has decided never to go public. Does that mean it's probably a healthy company?
Yes. The balance sheets of companies that are private are incredibly strong in this country.
And maybe they want to stay private?
Yeah. They want to stay private because they don't want other people to know what they have.
Exactly.
Kind of like your friends from Canada that we talk about.
Yeah.
They don't want that influence. You know, if I have a family, you know, I sit down with my management team, and essentially the four of us decide what's going on at the Financial Enhancement Group.
Right.
If I'm a publicly traded entity, all of a sudden I've got a board of directors that I have to report to.
Oh, yeah.
Right? That I don't necessarily get a hand pick and put on the board.
Right.
I got a board of directors that I have to report to, and anybody who owns a share. And the company has the ability to influence us. And then I fall under the rules of the SEC and everything else. You know, some of the things that I would be allowed to say or do when you're publicly traded are much different. You know, things that you're forced to say, or not allowed to say. You know, so companies stay private when they don't need cash, and they're not interested in the diversification. Okay. Now, there's a third reason why companies go public, and this is where you have to be very, very careful. That third reason that they go public is when they believe that the current market is willing to pay more than they ought to for the shares.
Okay.
Right. So let's say that I believe that the company's worth $1 million, and the multiple that people are paying to buy companies today is that the company's worth $1.5 million.
Okay.
Right. Then things go for sale. You may have a house that I'll never move out of this house, but all of a sudden they say your house isn't worth 100, it's worth 200. Now, well,
I might think about it now.
Could have been the Florida properties, you know, in the 06, 07 era.
Yeah.
Those kind of issues do come up, and that's when people get really, really taken advantage of. All right. So back to the company. I own 100%. And I decide that I need to have some liquidity, some cash so that I can invest in the future. So I decide that I'm going to sell off some of the shares.
Okay.
All right. So now that I'm publicly traded, my board of directors is going to authorize a certain number of shares. Let's say it's 1,000 shares. Okay. And by the way, that happens whether I'm publicly traded or not. There's if you own a company, there's shares. Sherry has 100% of her shares.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And you could have 10 shares. You could have 1,000 shares. Whatever those number of shares are that are out there that are authorized represent the number of shares that company has.
Right.
Okay. Now, so we have 1,000 shares that are authorized, and I decide to sell off 500 of them. Now, those would be what's called issued. Right. And now Sherry has that stock. When we talk about who stole the money, market capitalization has nothing to do with the value of the business. It has nothing to do with the computers, the buildings, the employees, the patents, the cash. It has nothing to do with that. Market capitalization is how much one share of stock is currently going for. So let's say it's $10.
Okay.
Times the number of shares that happen to be outstanding.
So it's value. It's current value.
It's current value, but pay attention. It's one share of a company stock times the number of shares that are outstanding. So let's say there's 1,000 shares outstanding.
Yeah.
And the shares are $10 a piece, right?
Yeah.
The market capitalization of the company would be $10,000.
Right.
Right? Has nothing to do with the money in the bank.
No.
Has nothing to do with the employees, the patents, the inventory, right? One share of a company stock times the number that are outstanding.
Because that is the perception of what that company is worth.
Well, you can go into that.
It's what people will pay for.
But the math, that's what the current price is.
Okay.
Right? So I have 1,000 shares outstanding, right?
Okay.
And now all of a sudden, something comes up, and I sell one share for $8. So you have a willing seller and a willing buyer.
For $8.
For $8.
Okay.
Now, what happened to the market cap of the other 999 stocks?
Went down by 2.
Went down by 2 or 20%.
Right.
Right? So when somebody would look at that company now, there was only one stock that was traded. Right?
Right.
But the way that it works is that one trade is now represented by all of the other stocks.
Now, why is that?
Because that's the way that it works. If you sell your house for less money than you should, the appraisal for your neighbors' homes went down too,
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing. So when I agreed to sell that stock for 20% less today than I did yesterday, the market capitalization of the whole company went down by 20%. Now, that doesn't mean that the company changed one iota. Right?
No, but if I were smart, wouldn't I run to that person and say, I'll buy that $8 stock for 10?
Well,
just to make it go back up?
In theory, if there were only one share and you could get to it, then it was that simple.
That's true.
But that is a big part of what is going on in the world today. A couple weeks ago, the New York Stock Exchange had a technology glitch, and the number of shares that were able to trade that day went down because trading in most of the Dow stocks couldn't occur. They just couldn't occur. If you happen to be listed on one of the other 27 or 28 places where you could buy and sell securities, or if you had access to those people to be able to make those trades, then it didn't affect you so much. But the volume that day was down. And so in theory, one of those things that Andrew, our chartered market technician, watches is volume. It's the number of, it's not just what somebody's willing to pay, it's how many shares moved at that given price on that given day based on what was going on.
Right.
So when you hear that market capitalization has changed, and you have this expression, who stole the money, they didn't really steal the money. And at the same time, when you have the stock and there's 1,000 shares outstanding and it goes to $12, suddenly you feel 20% wealthier. But I presume that you know that you can't just go sell that 20%.
Right,
if everybody sold all at one time, that's not the way that it would work.
Right, exactly.
So many times we're guided into believing what we want to be true, not necessarily always true, but it does feel better. I manage money for a living. I like smiles on people's faces.
Sure.
And the more the accounts grow, the happier they tend to be. We just have to do it in a right order and pay attention to what's going on. So market capitalization is one of those very, very important concepts to be able to understand, if you will. So when you hear people talk about large cap, mid cap, small cap, that cap is capitalization. Small cap means that the entire capitalization of what one share goes for times the number of outstanding that are out there, that it's a smaller company than a bigger company. And we tend to get caught up thinking about big companies being the ones with big buildings and and all sorts of stuff. And that's not necessarily true. I remember back in the late 90s, 1998, 99, Amazon, who had no earnings, its market cap was larger than that of General Motors. And people here had just had a cow when we talked about that on the radio. And how in the world can a company with no earnings have a larger market cap than a GM, and that's where that comes from. It's the number of shares that are outstanding. You've got companies like Harley-Davidson with around 300 million shares outstanding, and then companies like General Electric and Microsoft with more than 10 billion shares outstanding. So 100% is 100%. That's all you can have.
Yeah, that's right.
The number of pieces of that 100% can be cut up into very, very minuscule pieces in terms of what's going on. So if that doesn't come across to you clearly, it's one that you really do need to get a handle on. But that's what large cap, mid cap, small cap mean. It's capitalization. And just because the capitalization went down doesn't mean anybody got the money.
Right.
And just because capitalization went up or down didn't mean anything really changed at the company level.
Yeah, right.
It just doesn't.
Wow.
Hey, you're listening to Consider This. I'm Joe Clark along with Sherry Contos. You got a question or comment, shoot us an email. Consider this at yourlifeafterwork.com. I got to take a break. We'll be right back.
Are you overwhelmed with financial complexity? Are you confused about how your 401k and your IRAs work together? If so, you're not alone. At the Financial Enhancement Group, we work to make your financial life simple. On a single sheet of paper we call the Family Focus page, we help you lay out your long-term financial objective with the next 36-month key financial objectives. At the Financial Enhancement Group, we keep it simple. We keep you on track. We work together. 800-928-4001. We look forward to hearing from you.
Good morning and welcome back to Consider This. I'm Joe Clark.
And I'm Sherry Contos.
Sherry, I had a good question that was asked over the weekend.
You did?
I did.
Okay.
Happens a lot. We were talking about golf. I know that shocks you.
Yeah, okay.
And
so this conversation took place on the golf course.
Yes, which as do many of my important conversations.
I see.
And guy asked me what club he thought I should hit.
Okay.
He asked me what club I thought he should hit.
Okay.
And I said, well, there's really only 4 things you can do with risk.
You did not.
I did. I did. And we went into there. If you like Six Sigma, and if you ever hear anybody say that they're a black belt, it may not be in karate. It could be very well based in engineering. Yeah. But Six Sigma is that process of really getting every drop of energy out for the amount of risk that you take, and improving processes, if you would, down to a science.
Sure.
Jack Welch stole it from Motorola, took it to General Electric. So most of the Six Sigma guys tend to be engineers, tend to be GE, some of them at GM and other places.
Yep.
But if you're a golfer and you like Six Sigma, there is a great book called Wisdom on the Green, and it's about 4 business owners. One guy runs a hospital, and they're discussing Six Sigma via the golf course and in how you should treat things. So an amateur, that would be me. I'm a 16 handicap. An amateur walks up to the green and getting ready to make a chip shot, and looks at the flag and aims right at the flag. It doesn't matter where the flag is.
He always aims for that.
Ultimately, the ball has got to go to the hole, and
True. So why not aim for
the amateur walks up and just goes at it.
Right.
Right. Whereas a professional, on the other hand, looks at the flag, recognizes that as a professional they may be a yard off, 3 feet. Right.
Okay.
They may be a yard off, and looks around to see if there's any danger within that 1 yard. Right? Okay. So if the flag is on the left side of the green, but you miss it by a yard, and all of a sudden you go into the bunker,
then
they're going to aim a yard to the right.
Other way, yeah.
They're going to aim a yard to the right because they're professionals and they're smart people, and they're going to play correctly. Where as an amateur, I'm just going to go with the flag, and what happens, happens, and so I'll get in the sand and double whack it, and bad things happen. So the question really was, which club should I use? Based on the opportunity for a good shot and the risk of the bad shot. And I could not persuade him that he needed to pay more attention to the risk than to the opportunity to have a good shot. Okay. And so I went into the spiel. There are only 4 things that you can do with risk, Sherry. That's it. Count them 4.
4. All right.
You can retain it.
Yes.
That means you just do it. You swing with all of the vigor that you want and go right at the pin.
Okay.
You can reduce the risk.
Yeah.
You reduce the risk by aiming away from the hazard, aiming away from the trouble.
Okay.
Right? You can retain. We already said retain. You can reduce it. The best example of reduction, by the way, is to put your helmet on when you're riding a Harley.
Yeah.
Right? That's the other example I would use. You can avoid the risk.
By not shooting at all.
by not playing at all, not riding the Harley, or using your putter because you're really bad with a wedge.
Okay.
Right? Or you can transfer the risk. And in golf, it's very, very difficult to transfer the risk because you're not going to insure it.
Right, exactly.
But if you transfer a risk, essentially somebody else is picking up the liability. And that's what happens when you buy an insurance policy of one nature or the other. I transfer the risk of my car being stolen or being wrecked to the insurance company. The insurance company accepts a premium, and they're allowed to do it. So as an individual, there's only the 4 things that you can do with the risk, and you want to go through and you want to look at your life, because your life's different than my life, right?
True.
You want to look at your life and say, okay, what is the highest cost, lowest probability thing that I have in my life, and those are the ones that you want to transfer risk on. Okay. Right? My house burns down, that is a high cost. My office burns, that's a high cost.
Right.
Me stubbing my toe, not a high cost.
No.
Right? Getting insurance in case we need a major operation, high cost, low probability.
Right.
Having insurance to take care of a checkup. Or a physical,
you're gonna
or to take care of the flu, not a wise part of the insurance industry to be able to be in. So as you look at the different things in your life, you've got to go through and discern for you what risks that you want to transfer that you can, and what ones that you don't. And we talk about this in the planning team. I'll have people who come in who have no insurance on anything hardly at all, that they're not legally required to have. And others that have got pretty much their toenails insured. And it's kind of like, okay, let's sit down and
What's
let's,
that about?
so I'll write that little pyramid up on the little tic-tac-toe board. And, do you retain it, you avoid it, you reduce it, you transfer it? Which one of these are there? When we go into a portfolio, we're going to sit down and we're going to talk about the different risks that are there, that people need to be aware of, need to be concerned about. It's why we have Adam do the work on the fundamental side. It's why I look at the macroeconomy. It's why Andrew's paying attention to the technical indicators to see how much money's going in or out of the market at any given day, and then we're able to put those together with our four-legged stool process to make sure that we have decreased as much risk out of the portfolio that we possibly can, while still maximizing the return that we're capable of getting when everything works and goes according to plan. And so, it is a good question. And it's in life, there are going to be things that happen. And you do have to vote with your dollars, as Ben Graham would have said. You get to choose what you want to spend your money on and to be able to protect. So to be wise about it. So whether you're on a golf course or whether you're making a decision in your 401k plan, pay attention to those things that are out there. And remember, if you've got a small group in your life, 10 people or more that want to have this stuff discussed, we're more than happy to come, sit down, share a cup of coffee. I love to teach this in group forms. We consider it part of the ministry. We do it for churches, for different small groups, but more than happy to teach it and just help people walk through this stuff that is going on. We get to do this for St. Vincent's Hospital here in Anderson, and happy to do it for you as well. So, hey, you're listening to Consider This. I'm Joe Clark, along with Sherry Contos. I do have to take a break, but if you've got a question or comment, shoot us an email. Consider this at yourlifeafterwork.com, or you can find us at 1-800-928-4001. We'll take a break and be right back.
Hello, I'm Angie Kinzer, the event coordinator for the Financial Enhancement Group. We believe that education is critical to making wise decisions. Frequently, the Financial Enhancement Group provides educational workshops on particular parts of the financial planning process. Call 1-800-928-4001 or visit our website at yourlifeafterwork.com to find upcoming opportunities to learn more about your money. Thanks for listening to Consider This, and don't forget to call 1-800-928-4001 and ask for Angie.
Welcome back to Consider This. I'm Joe Clark.
I'm Sherry Contos.
Very happy to have you along. Hey, I hope you've enjoyed the show today. Sherry, some good thoughts, on starting your business.
Yeah.
Understanding a little bit more about risk. And, if you're a golfer, it just makes life better. You get a little bit of the lives and times of what can go wrong with a wedge. And it's, it's just important as you look at your resources, as you look at the financial world laid out in front of you. There's going to be different terms like market capitalization that we really do have to have a grasp on. Now, at the Financial Enhancement Group, we manage money for other people. We're fiduciaries by law. I have to treat your money as if it were my money and we were in the same situation. If you're doing this on your own, or if you're working with somebody who sells you stuff, like a stockbroker or an insurance agent, then at the end of the day, you are your own fiduciary and you've got to make these decisions. And so some of this terminology is important to understand. It's not as easy as just saying, hey, which one had the best return? It's understanding the levels of risk, the challenges that are out there, the things that you truly do need to consider. So if you have a question or comment, you want to sit down, you're ready to get out of the race and ready to hire a professional, we are more than happy to sit down and to talk about that. You can shoot us an email at considerthis@yourlifeafterwork.com. I would encourage you to go to the website, check us out, find out the opportunities that are out there to learn a little bit more about our money, to have professional grade asset management from people that you know that live within your community. You know, we're not in Boston. We're here in good old Indiana, whether that's Anderson, Lafayette, Rensselaer, or Fishers. More than happy to have a conversation with you in one of our offices. Hey, you've been listening to Consider This. Joe Clark, Sherry Contos. Have a wonderful week, my friend. Stay dry.
Yeah.
God bless. We'll see you again soon.
Thanks for listening to Consider This with Big Joe Clark. Big Joe can be reached at 800-928-4001 or via email at bigjoe@yourlifeafterwork.com. The Financial Enhancement Group is located at 429 East 14th Street, Anderson, Indiana, 46016. Be sure to check out their website for more information at yourlifeafterwork.com. Have a great week, and don't forget to consider this.